Hello and welcome to the Forgeborn Finishing School. Casey, Kckid, and Koar here. We'll be analyzing Forgeborn battles to help take your game to the next level. Welcome back, everyone. We're here to continue with our faction pairing breakdown, going over the Byzerak Strategy. That's your Tempest and Necrium pairing. But before we do that, we want to get into a Digitize Dustup update very quickly. And our Digitized update, Greg, we recorded this a week ago, and at that point we talked about adjusting our goal and went for a stretch goal of $1,250. We are now at $1,301.
Yeah, it's we kind of like talked about it. I think it was talking about it on the episode about the stretch goal, and we're like, let's just go a little bit further, and then we just got blown away again. The support from the community has just been outstanding.
Yeah, it's I can't give a shout out to everyone that's donating. Just scrolling through the list here quick, thank you for everyone that has really been a part of this. It's amazing to see. It's amazing to be a part of. And so as this episode drops, we are into our second round. We'll have some of the matches done, and we're going to be quite along the way. So talking about reaching out our stretch goal a little bit further, seeing just how much this community can give, let's take a quick look at the current status of our bounties. So we are recording this in the middle of the bounty window, so keep that in mind. A big shout out to Colin here. Everyone is donating on the bounties, but Colin, he threw down and he said, I'm putting $10 on every team that doesn't have a bounty currently. And let's see if everyone else can just kind of pick up the rest of the tab here. So I have no doubts that a couple of these will get filled. But talking about this and doing the math, if we do manage to get through this episode or through this round, and every team gets a bounty, right? And we get through round 3, and every team gets a bounty. That's where we've set our stretch goal, and that's going to come down to $1,600, and that's our new goal. So let's see if we can get there together, and just kind of seal this thing out. And really, what I want to see is these digitizes fly. Greg, I had so much fun watching some of these games.
The first one that had aired, the opening play and the end play were you couldn't have scripted a better digitized game. Like, it was almost you have to go and watch it, but anybody that hasn't yet, the first play was basically a mirror, and then the bounty came into effect on the second play. I watched another game where the bounty is like helping determine who can win this game. It's been a lot of fun. So everybody that's watching this and please go out to all of our participants. They all have their own channels, whether it's Twitch or YouTube, and please subscribe to them. Leave comments in their videos, watch them. They are a ton of fun, and they're all great people. So
yeah, I couldn't help but chat along. In one of the videos, Team Digitize drops their theme song, and just starts playing it. I'm not going to get into the legality of that, but please, you got to go check that out as well.
Parody law, it works, man. It was great.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. I was busting up laughing so hard. Sitting on the couch, I think I was watching football as I have my phone streaming the game, and my wife looks over like I'm insane. What are you laughing at? I just couldn't stop it, so I just turned the speakers up on my phone and let her enjoy it too. But okay, so that's where we're at for our Digitize event. Absolutely amazing. One last thing I do want to say, Greg. Today I had the pleasure of dropping off my digitized display. You can see normally in this place where it's proudly displayed. It is now at the trophy shop getting fitted for its mount. So I don't know exactly the type of mount we're going to get yet. We're going through a couple of options, going to get some quotes for a custom acrylic, a wood mount. Either way, it needs to come with a base in some way, shape, or form so that I can get those brass or metal inlay plates. So the winning team is going to get their name on this thing, and it's going to travel to any event I go to.
Dude, that's awesome.
If you end up at an event that I'm not at, we'll figure out how to ship this thing or something. But it's going to be a traveling trophy that everyone can hopefully enjoy. So I'm excited to see what this trophy shop comes back to me with. But there it is.
That'll be nice, yeah. The winning team on there. So I guess it kind of just we're gonna turn this into an annual thing.
Yeah, yep. It's definitely it's getting enough slots to have a couple of these things, so this will not be our last. Speaking of that, I didn't plan to talk about this, but I'm going to leak a little bit of what my thoughts are brewing for the next event. And of course, we've got a long ways to go, but the next one is going to be an all-inclusive community event. So Greg and I are going to get our heads together, and we're going to find out which betrayer we're letting the community know, and you're going to have a 4 to 6 month time. And your ticket to play in the event is going to be based on you owning the betrayer version of that card. So we'll give you plenty of time to acquire that said betrayer, and
Or borrow.
hopefully, yeah, or borrow. Yeah, right. You don't have to own it. I don't think, but there's going to be a different type of involvement, so it won't be the exact same type of event. Today we love Digitize. We'll see what tomorrow brings.
It'll be exciting either any way we do it.
All right, so let's jump back into the Byzerak strategy a little bit, Greg. Can you kind of break down, some of the Byzerak combination synergies for us, and any set two new things you want to talk about before we get into some of these decks?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing with Byzerak, you're really just looking for that mage synergy is really the go-to. You're looking. They both do good ways of removing creatures either via direct damage or negative health attack stats. Right? They both have really good ways of removing creatures in that vein. They both do good direct damage to the player either through the lifesteal shenanigans that's Necrium has, or just the direct damage to face that Tempest has. So you're looking at those. And the other thing that they do very well is playing free cards. With Tempest, you're looking specifically at free spell actions. And then with Necrium, it's generally just free plays, usually through sacrifice or other methods. And so those are what you're looking to combine. And a lot of those that do those same things are related around mages. Spite Maiden, Blight Witch, are mages that get you the free spells, and then on the Tempest side, you're looking at those mages and those spells that also generate free spells. So that's the main focus that you're looking at. And then, of course, you have the Dark Heart Sorcerer in there, benefiting from all of those spell plays. And then you can't not talk about Byzerak without talking about RSE, which then pairs into Necrium's ability to play free spells and the Dark Heart Sorcerer itself, which again, there has been a change in how transform works, but not going in too much into that, you're still getting benefits from spells and that whole package. So, Ryan, what are some of the other more specific cards that you would be looking at that supports all of those mages and those synergies?
Yeah, I think a couple of them. We're really going to get into, but set one always brings Conflagrate's an amazing one. Lightning Brand, those types of things are very mage specific. And Master, Staff of Varus, you name it. Set one's got the if you have a mage, do X amount of cards, and so those are ones that I really have my eye out for. And one thing, you mentioned about how these two combinations kind of join together to let you play free spells or free cards. The other thing they really do is just let you do free card-like actions and or abilities. And so what I mean there is, we mentioned the Dark Heart Sorcerer. Anytime you play a spell, you get X, right? Anytime you have a dinosaur in play, you get X. Anytime you have an elemental in play, you get X. There's a lot of these things in Tempest and Necrium that really kind of just give you free stuff, just generate free things. You and I both have done it with the Dizzying strategy. We'll get into that next week. But, a lot of those things also give you free stuff. But I actually think Byzerak probably has more instances of that. And we're going to get into that as we break down these decks. And I think that's a really key focal point is the free card-like abilities or free extra things. So we are going to jump into our first deck, and that deck is going to be Mundungu's deck, who placed second at Worlds, and this is a Rumblespark Byzerak deck. So to break this one down a little bit, we have, the aforementioned Dark Heart Sorcerer. Anytime you play a spell, you get to deal damage to a player, and you gain 2 health. This is the key piece in triggering the Rumble Spark energy. So Rumble Spark energy essentially makes the Dark Heart Sorcerer an elemental, and then anytime you play a spell, then it triggers and instantly pops into the level 3 Rumble Spark embodiment. Worlds was done before the rules changed that clarified that, the first time you play Rumble Spark Energy, it does in fact count as playing a spell. Essentially, every time after that, when the embodiment transforms, it no longer counts as playing a spell. So that does affect this combination a little bit. Still very powerful. Going a little bit deeper into some of these cards, and there's so many good ones here. I assure you I will leave some for you to talk about, Greg. I'm going to talk about one that probably isn't a huge piece of this deck. But, what I love about some of the really good decks is when you look at their not, greatest cards, and someone who isn't really delving into the deck might grab out the Vampiric Demon. But there's 2 things that make this thing really good in this deck, and that's one is Vampiric. If you drop this in a lane with the Rumble Spark energy, boom, there's your Rumble Spark embodiment, free of charge. But the stats on this guy for the same thing, for right off the bat, you're doing a 4 health exchange in the game, right? You're taking 2 from your opponent, giving it to yourself, and oh, by the way, you just dropped a 6/6 in cycle 1. Huge body. So that's a card that I love to see. And then I'm going to just kind of rattle through some of the cards that can easily assist with triggering Rumble Spark embodiment, which one is one of the biggest things about this deck, okay? So Dark Heart Sorcerer, we have mentioned. The Shambling Spectre, if it stays alive and something's dead, that's going to trigger it.
Or the stealth.
Or the stealth. Good point. Vampiric Demon, Charger Mammoth. So, hey, anything with aggressive or breakthrough is going to help you hit the opponent and trigger this thing. Tortoise Colossus. And then that's pretty close to it on the creature thing, which this does a pretty good job of it. So we just listed off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 creatures that can easily assist with getting it off. And then the other one that I'll throw in there is the Mystic. If you play this and you slide a guy into the energy lane, that could also assist. So that's quite a bit.
The awesome thing about the Charger Mammoth is that it can make any of your creatures essentially being able to blow through there. Like, I'm a huge fan of the Charger Mammoth in an RSE deck.
Good qualification. I do like Charger Mammoth, but this is a card that I've had a lot of thoughts on, and I think it's good. It's not great. In a Rumble Spark deck, it is great.
Yeah, when you put it into a Rumble Spark deck, it goes up into a higher tier. Outside of a Rumble Spark deck, it's okay. It's good. Like, I'm not necessarily mad if I see it. But in a Rumble Spark deck, I think it brings a lot more value.
So I've left some cards out there that I didn't talk about, a couple of big ones, and then all the spells. I left them for you, Greg. Tee it up with what I think's, the best spell in the game, pound for pound. I would say best 2 spells, pound for pound, in the game or in this deck. Go ahead and break these ones down.
Yeah, so I think, obviously you have the Elementalist Ritual, right? Like, in a Rumble Spark deck, or, in a deck that has a lot of just ways to put out elementals, this card is huge. Like, this can swing games. And it also has the Unstable Vortex over on the creature side, elemental as well. And then the other big one is Circe's Call. This will work a little bit differently again with the transform changes, but Circe's Call is a super powerful card, and it can save you and win you games in of itself. The other cards that work well in this deck, Grave Pact works really well, especially pre-transform change. And then Soul Reap, depending on how many beasts you have, could be a good card. Here, if we're looking at it, we've got maybe only, is it 2? 3?
3 we got, yep.
3. So it's not the best card in this deck. Really, it's the Elementalist Ritual. This Circe's Call disintegrates a very good card based on the circumstance that can be very useful. Again, Grave Pact is huge. Epidemic's another one of those useful cards in certain situations. You're not always going to play it every game, but in the games that you do need it, it's really good. And then
Yeah.
the other
One
card that
thing I love about Disintegrate, I just want to jump in there real quick, is that like this is always a solid removal with a string, right? And that string is if the creature came into play this turn.
yeah,
So that's kind of the qualification that a lot of people will say, I don't always love Disintegrate. But you get the added benefit of this is in a Rumblespark deck. More than likely, you're removing a creature with it and gaining a creature when Rumblespark Embodiment comes out. I mean, it's just mind blowing the value you get out of triggering that.
the, the 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 funny thing is under the old, I don't know how many people did this, but under the old transform rules, you could kill your own Rumblespark to trigger it again with Disintegrate, triggering another
Right.
Dark Art Sorcerer. Like again,
Yep.
pretty niche case, but it's
Yeah.
just any creature. It doesn't matter if it's yours or not. So you need to push 3 or 4 or 5 more damage through in the end of the game. This would allow you to do it. Anyways, it's a very niche case. The card that I was going to talk about that I really like in this deck is the Tormenting Necromancer. Again, Tormenting is just great ability to have on a creature, and the Necromancer can be super powerful if you're able to level it up. So, again, another just really great card in an already great deck.
Yeah, this deck just kind of hits all the all the spaces, and it fills so many things with all these great cards. And so even the I'm not going to call them bad cards. Even the cards that aren't desirable to this deck's strategy are not bad cards. Indomitable Fiend is one of them, right? Like in this deck, it might not play into its strategy 100%. And there's still things you could do with it. You could kill it while you're on Forge just to play a spell to trigger a Dark Heart Sorcerer to get. There's all sorts of weird niche cases that you could use it, but it's still not a bad card, right? Like, this
Yeah,
is a card
works.
I've used in Cycle 3 as a throwdown to block someone and move on and continue with the game. So just kind of, it's okay. Gloom
It can
Reaper Hag.
I was going to say on
Go
the
ahead.
Indomitable Fiend, that's a card that can save you. Like if you're on Forge and you just need to prevent a creature from hitting you, like
Mm-hmm.
they can't do anything about it, right? Like it's just
Yep.
going to be there. They kill it, it comes back. So like it can save you games, and it does pair well with Epidemic and Grave Pact. So yeah, again, like I said, not a bad card. It's probably less played in this deck, but always there's room for it to be useful.
Yep. Another one of those cards, and this is one that I'm always happy to see, but almost never just goes solely into the strategy of my deck, and that's Gloom Reaper Hag. This thing with 7 attack, right? The only thing that could make this card better is if it was maybe like an 8/4 instead of a 7/5. Just gaining that one more to be able to kill an
Mhm.
opposing Dark Heart. But 7 is really an odd number that hits a couple of key characters or couple of key creatures. I've noticed that sometimes are just out of a reach of a lot of things. The biggest one I can think of myself are some of those pesky War Tusks. Kindred War Tusk slots in at a 3/7, and this thing can trade it out. So just the high stats, and if you play this thing over the entire course of the game, play all 3 levels, and it dies every time, you've just taken 9 life from your opponent. That's an 18-point swing. That's not anything to scoff at. Yeah, and then the last odd card I kind of want to talk about is Uranti Heartseeker. Again, probably not one that's played a lot in this deck, but being able to activate to give any of your creatures +2 attack is okay, and being on the 3/6 stat line isn't the worst thing, right? So sometimes when you're in a bad spot and you got to play a card, well, you could play a decent statted body and give something else to attack. I could almost guarantee I would love for Matt Mundungu to reply in the comments below if he's ever gotten this thing up to level 3 in this deck. Seems highly unlikely, and if it did, I bet the Necromancer was involved. But if you do, this thing gets out of hand. So
Yeah, I'm gonna guess the Heartseeker and the Stompede are probably the 2 least played cards in this deck. The Everflame Phoenix probably doesn't see a lot of play, but it is just a great underdrop, even late game, dropping that to just
yep.
punch damage through or stopping a stealth creature. So
All right, let's wrap this one up, and we're gonna jump over to Alex's deck, aka Easy to Remember on the Discord. So this is from the Shuffle Bus qualifier back in April. What we wanted to do was take a Byzerak deck that was, I'm not going to say pre-RSE, but is without RSE, because this tournament was in the same tournament with other Rumble Sparks. It did end up getting second to Joel's Auratech Rumble Spark deck that we did break apart. And I will say that Auratech deck was meant specifically and made specifically to take down decks exactly like this. So that was a little bit of hard rock, paper, scissors, I think, involved. But this deck is really cool. I got to play against it in the tournament, and I got swept off my feet pretty strongly. So if you want to go ahead and break some of the things you like in this one, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, it's using the strategy of playing spells and having things to generate effects. We have the Blight Witch in there, which is going to help you play more spells. The Devouring Summoner is really a big piece of this deck, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anytime you play a spell, you're being able to activate and put out a minion, as well as reducing creatures' attack and health. And that just gets better as this card levels up. So this is kind of a must-play card. In there, Spite Maiden again, another option to generating spells in this deck. Lightning Tamer is allowing you to get across go wide on the board and getting benefits again from your spells. Other cards to look at. Just got the Conflagrates, and then Lightning Bread's another big one. You have a spell, Mage in play, you get to play a free spell, and you're getting more minions in there. So there's a lot of things that work really well in this deck. Steadfast Color's another mage that's going to help you out. And then it's got a lot of, I would say, utility creatures that really kind of help fill in the deck in different scenarios. Between the Grimgaunt, the Batterhide, and the Undeady, kind of just to go over a quick few. And then also, forgot to mention the Hibernating Invocist. Again, benefiting from spells played and being a mage helps out as well. So there's a quick rundown of just all of those mages and kind of spell synergies involved in there.
Yeah, I think, right off the bat, you nailed the Devouring Summoner as the nucleus of this deck. When I played it, the reason I lost to this deck is this thing got on the board, and I swear Alex just stapled it to the computer screen, and the lane it was in, I couldn't remove it. Every spell he played was aimed around getting my creatures' attacks low enough to not be able to kill his summoner or kill my creatures that were trying to kill his summoner. And anytime he played a spell, he was reducing the attack and health of my creatures. So it was very hard to remove this from the board. And like I said, once it was played, it was a persistent threat that I could almost never get rid of. By the time I got rid of the first one, the second one was on the board. And then the second one was still on the board when the third one came on the board in our match. And the game just got carried away from that point on. And what I do love to see is there is an absolute MVP of a card in this deck that wasn't even mentioned before because of how great everything else is going on in this deck. But I made an episode quite a while ago about internally synergistic cards, and the Vampiric Reaper is one of them. This is a card that as soon as it comes on the board, it triggers itself to become a 6/4 when it steals health from the opponent. And then the second level becomes a 10/9 the instant it comes on the board, and so on and so forth. So this is a really cool card that, I'm sure Alex was trying to play every chance he could get. However, it was made difficult because of the amount of other absolutely amazing cards in this deck that all just synergize so well together. And then, we talked about all the free spells. So Neck Revive, level that thing up, and it's the potential to be free on the second. It's definitely free on the third. Mm-hmm. And then Zerath's Will, this is probably the odd one out that doesn't get played or leveled very often, just because we're not gaining a whole bunch of life out of this deck. The Vampiric Reaper is, I think, the one case scenario. So very sad Zerath's Will. However, the Conflagrate with the mages, and then Lightning Brand you mentioned, just flinging out spells. Mm-hmm. So this card just once it fires, and I think, if you go back and you watch my original faction pairing breakdown where I just break down all the faction pairings in one video, I made this analogy that, if you're playing Byzerak, you climb this ladder, and it's just the most rickety ladder you could ever imagine. But if you make it to the top, you crush everything in sight. And so that's this deck has so many things going for it that it takes away that inconsistency and becomes very consistent because you don't have to draw the Conflagrate, you don't have to draw the Lightning Tamer, the Invocust. Like, you're gonna get some of the pieces, and those pieces are gonna go together pretty well.
I really like how, I mean, it's got all of these cards and all these pieces, and it has just this great Necrotic Bataride Betrayer. Like,
Yes.
it's just an awesome
Yeah.
card. I love Necrotic. It's just a huge keyword. I look for it, and then it's just, again, like to your point, keeps the summoner alive. You're just like, I don't want you to kill the
Yep.
summoner. Go back because the summoner is the defender, and so you get to be defender. No damage this round.
The really cool thing, this is one of those few cards that can block a single lane by itself 3 times. Right? You could play this thing off Forge, send the creature in front of it to the back row. Next round it comes up, kills the Batterhide. Batterhide's like, okay, here's my minion. Now kill that. So it can really just stall out a game. Yeah, it's a super cool card. The last one I do want to mention is the Steadfast Caller. So now the Caller is one of those cards that's very situationally useful, and when you do play it, you're almost never playing it for the stats, right? You're just like, oh, I got to get this summoner out of dodge. It's got to move to another lane. And so I do that, and I save my number one most valuable piece in the summoner, and I play this lowly 3-2. Okay, cool. Well, now level 2, it's teed up to be an 11-9, and I can move a creature as well. So this is a card that's like, hey, if I get it for its value in level 1, sweet. I'm going to play it in level 2. But if not, no big deal. I still have that utility piece in my toolbox.
And it's a mage triggering off your Conflagrate or Lightning Brand, and
Yep.
I could even see it being good because you have Grimgaunt Predator in here, like being able to move the Predator into the lane that you needed to punch through damage. Like, that's also just, there's a lot of pieces in this deck that can make things better, and like you called it, the Stormcaller being able to set those up, and there's a lot of pieces in this deck that allow you to do that, or to take advantage of that, I should say.
Right. And so these two decks really epitomize the Byzerak strategy pretty strongly. There's a few cards that we haven't really covered in here, so I just want to take a moment to discuss those. Stormcaller is one of them. Whenever you play it, your opponent gets a chance to take some damage or let you play a free spell. At level 1, it's 3 damage, so the reason I like that card is, it's attack statted pretty heavily, so it's always just going to, block and kill something. But then your opponent's taking 3 damage. I don't know who they are, unless you have 2 spells in your entire 20 card deck and you already played one that round, they're going to take 3 damage. It's a free 3B. Level 2, they're going to start to think about it. Maybe I take the damage, maybe I don't. Level 3, I think it's 10 damage. They're not going to take the damage, probably. So it's just a really fun card. And then the Uranti Elementalist. This is a very, very good card. Probably my favorite to look for. So if I'm looking for a Tempest deck that I'm going to slam into a Spells Matter type deck, that's probably the first one I'm looking for. Obviously, you don't need it, but if you have it, it helps immensely. It just generates free spell after free spell after free spell. And then, Greg, you want to go ahead and talk about Warbringer Ritual?
Yeah, so you like looking for your ante. I try to look for a Warbringer Ritual. They play a very similar role. The Warbringer Ritual, instead of replace, is a spell, right? You play, get a minion, and then on the next level of it, you start being able to get free spell generation on there without having to replace a creature. That's kind of, the Uranti Elementalist. You're replacing a creature, getting the free spell on the first one, and then you're getting better benefits. And then the Warbringer Ritual is kind of the reverse. It's a spell that gets a minion out, and then it gets better as it goes on. And so, they're both great cards, and I think, again, they're doing kind of a similar strategy, almost reversed.
Yeah, and that's one of those weird cards where I think the second level is the best level. of that card. There's not a lot of cards where you could say that. A lot of times you would say the third level is generally the best. So at the third level, Warbringer's Ritual brings out the Spell Swarm and gives you the free spell. At level 2, you get 2 spell sprites and a free spell, which just goes into Thunder Crash Fields, or it's 2 bodies. I think it's just more value there for me. But last 2 cards, well, we'll go 3. 2 more cards I just want to mention briefly is the Master and the Savant. Really, we bring those up because they're mages. They're set 1 Tempest mages. And then, so the Master, anytime you play a mage, you're getting a spell sprite. This is a really cool card that can kind of fit its way into some really strong combos. And then the Savant is obviously like combo king number 1. You know, there's a couple other cards that get close to it, but the Flame Shaper Savant is whenever you play a level 1 spell, deal X amount of damage, and it's based on the level. And so that is, you know, Flame Shaper Savant, if you're one of those players that wants to see the crazy combination that ends the game and goes infinite, like that's your number 1 card you look for in Solforge Fusion to try to break. So last one, not necessarily spells matter, but it kind of is, and it fits a gray area, and it's both of one of our favorite cards, Greg, Dizzy and Siphon.
Yeah, Dizzy and Siphon, again, using that damage to the face, essentially, right? And getting free spell generation. And then I'd like to call out 2 more that I really like. And so the first one is the Windy keyword.
Ooh, yeah.
Can work out really well, right? So more spells in your discard, the bigger guy it comes into play. And then also one of my favorite spells, just because I just enjoy damaging everything, is Flame Jet. Just free spell, damaging me and you. Let's just play it every time. I don't care.
Well, now I got to mention one more card here, and because you mentioned Windy, the Windy Sentinel. So the Sentinel is for every spell in your discard, it gets additional attack and different stats. I think the Windy Sentinel is tied for the best Sentinel out there, but essentially, when it comes into play, you're dealing damage based on the amount of spells that it's in your banish, and then it's also getting bigger. But shout out to Hellkite. Stampeding Sentinel needs to be on everyone's radar as one of the best Sentinels, because if you get that thing big enough, breakthrough matters and you win games. So with that, I think we'll wrap up the Byzerak strategy. Greg, you had something worked out with our friend Nick Fletcher for this episode, so I'm going to let you take this away and lead me down this path that normally I lead you into.
All right, so Nick reached out to me and said, here's something you can surprise Ryan with. So this is a artwork for an upcoming card spoiler. So we'll get your thoughts on what you think the card is, and let's get your thoughts on what you think it'll do off of just the artwork, and then we'll see if that comes true in the future. So here, we'll get that pulled up.
All right. Here it is. Okay, my initial interpretation is that this is, what is it, Flame Break Invoker from set 1 is a mage that has aggressive and gives your other level-gated creatures aggressive. I swear that this guy is his dad or his brother, or killed him and took that weapon, because this looks like the Flame Break Invoker's weapon. And he was also a giant. No, he was a warrior mage, but looked like a giant. You know, I know Solforge Fusion, what they kind of like to do sometimes is take the original artwork from Solforge that had varying art at each level, like level 1, 2, and 3, and then use it for different cards here. So I think that might be what's happening. I swear this looks just like Flame Break Invoker. I'd have to go pull that card up.
I did pull up Flame Break Invoker. Go ahead and pull it up so everybody else can just see it here. Do you want me to send it to you? Or?
Let's just do some clicking. Everyone's going to...
Yeah, sorry, everybody. We're gonna
watch me in the
up.
scenes here.
Yeah, you are right.
Break.
This does look... That weapon,
okay.
The guy, yeah.
Yeah, so they're best friends or something. Or, so this is a younger version. Like, maybe this was the level 1, and this is the level the Flamebreak Invoker is level 2, because he looks like he's got a longer beard, longer hair, looks a little bit more downtrodden, like as we get in life, as we've made it through a couple of stages. Okay, so but this one looks like he's taking something, pulling an essence or a magic out of the weapon, and he's about ready to throw it, which makes me then think of the Invokist. When you play a spell, you get to deal damage, which is obviously something that's already taken. I have no idea. So we're going to say something like... I'm going to go out on a limb and go with the energy counters here. Okay, so Tempest has Energizing, which is a keyword, right? Which keys in with Exalts. So I'm going to say something to the effect of, when you spend an energy counter, or when you expend or remove an energy counter, you can activate... Here, if you have expended an energy counter this turn, activate to deal X amount of damage. That's what I'm going to say.
Okay. All right. It'll be, yeah. I don't know what it's going to do. But I don't know if this is helpful or matter or not. I'm just looking at what the image name is, and it's capital B, capital R, lowercase s, lowercase c, space, capital T, capital E, capital Z, capital C. I don't know if that means anything, but I'm always looking into like the metadata things.
No, I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I'm certain that these cards had to be art with each other in the original Solforge.
I didn't even think
that
of
weapon,
that.
as soon as I saw the weapon. So cool.
Nice.
Well,
There we go.
Yeah, that's my thoughts. Obviously, there's a point where we would love to hear your comments. What do you think? Because it's very fun getting the no sneak peek, just hearing, trying to make my thoughts as I see the card. So everyone out there who's listening, viewing, take some moments, collect some thoughts, provide something better than what I just gave out as my opinion for what this thing will do, and let's see what we can think of. And then it sounds like we'll be revealing the actual card 1 week from now. Thanks for attending this lesson of the Forgeborn Finishing School. If you liked this video, please subscribe, comment, or consider donating to our Patreon account. We look forward to our next lesson.